Hello everyone, today in this video we're going to create burning effects with the help of dynamic paint and fluid simulation. In this class we are going to create these effects. So now let's get started. Save. Now I'm going to do it from the start. If you can't follow me, you can see on the screencast to see what I'm pressing or what I'm doing. You can see in the right corner out here. And now we're going to start with by adding a UV sphere. Not a UV sphere, it's a icosphere. So let's add an icosphere, and we're going to increase the subdivision to 3 and go to the front view, and we're going to duplicate this icosphere by pressing Shift D and press scale for scale up, and then scale it up. Let's go to the wireframe mode by pressing Z, and I want to grab this much, and now I'm going to animate this icosphere. Select the icosphere and then press I, and then add a location. Then I'm going to go to frame 100, and then I'm going to bring it out here, and again I'm going to add a keyframe. So add a location keyframe. And now we are going to add a displacement modifier to this bigger icosphere. To do that, go to the press this range or modifier properties, and add displacement. So after going to displacement, we're going to create a texture node. So press go to the texture property, and I'm going to add new, and from the type we are going to choose clouds, and it's very big, so we're going to scale it down. We need to bump, not scale down, we're going to scale it up because we don't need very big bumps. And let's go back to the modifier, and we're going to reduce it to 0.2 or 1. Let's go for 2, and then press enter. And from the coordinates we're going to change from local coordinates to global coordinates, and press local and then go for global. And now you can see in solid mode, now it's moving. And what will it will do is it will create some variations while burning this icosphere. And one thing is we are going to add another modifier that's called subdivision surface, and we're going to increase this size viewport labels to 2, and then we're going to drag it to the top above the displacement. And now select the smaller icosphere, and then we're going to do is subdivide this icosphere to 2, and we're going to add another modifier called Boolean, because this big icosphere need to burn this out. So right now it will, let's go to frame mode. Now right now it's not changing any shape because it's keeping retaining the original shape. To add some burning effect or disappearing effects, we need to use we are going to use Boolean modifier. To add a Boolean modifier, we're going to add a Boolean out here and click on Boolean, and from we need to select this object. So from the object, click on the eyedropper and click on the icosphere 0.001. Now let's see wireframe, and now it's going to have some effects like kind of disappearing effects. And go to solid mode. We're going to smooth this two out. So right click, box select these two and press right click, and then shade smooth. And now we are ready to add dynamic paint. To add a dynamic paint, you need to go to the physics properties and choose dynamic paint. We're going to select the smaller UV sphere and keep this as a type as the canvas, because it need to play as a canvas, and we are add canvas. And we don't want to animate the frame till 250. we are going to keep it 110 frames and press enter. And from the surface type, we're going to change this paint from the weight to weight, and go to output section. Why we are selecting weight is because fire simulation works on weight. That's why we were choosing surface type as a weight. So please press this plus icon, and now let's select the bigger icosphere, and then we also need to add dynamic paint. And now we're going to change the type to the brush and press the add button to add brush. And from the source, we're going to change mesh volume to approximate, and let's keep distance 1. Yep. And let's change the paint color to black, or you can keep right now as any color, but later on when we are adding some burning texture, then we will turn into the black. Let's make this black right now. And now let's bake this dynamic paint. Before we add the fire simulation, let's bake this. Go to cache, and before baking we need to save this file, because if we don't save the file as a Blender file in your computer, it will not. You need to change and you need to save the Blender file. So press Ctrl S to save, and I'm going to add as Boolean. And now we can get the options to bake the simulation. Now let's get and bake. Now we have to bake the dynamic paint simulation, and now we're going to add a fire simulation. To add a fire simulation, let's add a cube. To add a cube, press Shift A and go to Mesh and then Cube. Let's go to front view, let's zoom, and let's go to the wireframe, and we're going to scale this. To scale a little bit more, and let's reposition the cube. Scale a little bit. I think that's good. This must is very good. And before we add simulation, let's change this icosphere from solid to wireframe mode. Because we can see what is happening inside this icosphere. To make this wireframe in a viewport, you need to go to the object properties and go to the viewport display, and from the display as textured, we need to change this to solid, not solid, it's a wire. And let's bring back the cube, and now we are going to add a fire simulation. And to add a fire simulation, go to the physics property panel, it's a tab, and click on the fluid, and from type none to let's create this. This need to be as a domain, and where domain type it as good, it's kept as a gas. And I'm going to increase the resolution of the simulation from 32 to maybe 64. Let's keep 64 right now. It will depend on your computer whether it can handle it or not. Right now I'm going to keep as a 64. If you have a high specs laptop or any PC, you can increase the resolution. For the sake of tutorial, I'm just keeping the resolution to 64. And let's select the small icosphere. From that we can minimize the dynamic paint, and let's add fluid, and from we are going to choose type as a flow, and from flow type to fire, from smoke let's select fire, and in flow behavior we need to change to geometry to inflow. And let's fuel to the 1.5 to give some interesting variations, and let's choose now. We're going to select a vertex group that we have created earlier. Click on this area and choose DP weight that we have created already earlier. From the flow source, we're going to set this surface emission to 1. And let's go back to the domain and let's customize some settings. And please check on this adaptive domain. And vorticity to 0.1. And from fire we're going to vorticity, we're going to turn it to 0.7. and from the cache we need to change this to 110, and from type replay to modular. It will give us the options to bake the simulation. Now let's see how it's working. It's not showing any fires right now, so let's revisit the settings. Gas. I think settings all fine. I think let's see once more. It's not showing any signs of burning. No. The heat. Even though it's not showing right now, let's inflow of fire intensities. Maybe it's dynamic. Let's see on dynamic paint. Anyway, let's bake the data. Hope it's work. Otherwise, we need to do one from the start. If you when time of baking, if your computer is taking too much time, you need to minimize the resolution. I think it's working. Yep. Now let's add burning, like black. When we burn the pepper, it will, before burning out, it will like change the color of the material from any color to black when it's burning. So now let's create this effect. Let's go to the select the small icosphere and open the dynamic paint. And now after we have already baked the fire simulation, now we don't need it will not affect even if we delete the canvas and not canvas from the bake. So we're going to delete this bake, and now we're going to change this weight to paint, and then go to output, add a DP paint, from initial color we're going to choose color and then keep it as a default color, that is white. And now let's go back to the brush, and we're going to change the distance to 0.05. and before in earlier, if you didn't change color paint to the black, now you can change the color to black. And to see the effect, we need to go to the vertex mode. You can go to the material, the shading and viewport shading, and from that color you need to choose the vertex to see how it's affecting. Right now it's very small. It's start frame 1 to form burning. And now we're going to animate this distance. Now let's keep as let's add a keyframe at the frame number 1. And let's go to frame number 20, and let's turn the distance into maybe 0.4, then press enter, and we're going to again insert the keyframe out here. Now we can see there's some glitch in this material. It's due to the it's glitch of Boolean modifier. So we need to go select this small icosphere, and we're going to add sub steps to 5. Hope it will solve the problem. Yep, it has solved the problem. Now let's give the textures to it. Let's split the screen by up here, and we need to change this to shader editor. and press N to remove this toolbar, active tool dialog box. And now click on the material, and we're going to select this small icosphere and press on new. First we are creating some bump. To add a bump, we need to create a noise texture. I press Shift A and go to texture and select noise texture, and we need a converter called bump. Let's say go to not converter, is vector, and we're going to add a bump and join this vector to the height, and from the bump it's normal to the normal in principle BSDF. Let's go to shape mode. It's quite very big. We are going to scale it to 300, and we are going to reduce the strength. It's very rough, maybe strength to 0.5. No. And now we're going to add some texture coordinate. Let's see some animation right now. It's deforming the texture, so we need to solve this problem by adding a empty. By press Shift A, go to add an empty, add the plane axis, and we're going to shift it to side and going to scale it down, repressed. And now we need texture coordinate input. To add, Shift A and go to input and texture coordinate, and we are going to select this object to vector, and click on the eyedropper tool and select the empty. I think now texture is a bit small. We need to apply the scale of empty. To do that, Ctrl A and press scale. Now we can see the textures. And now let's give this material some material. For we're going to add some darker material, because it to show that it can have some illusion of burning. So to do that, we are going to add a vertex color. From input, Shift A, go to input and select the vertex color, and join this color to the base color. Select this to dynamic paint, select the vertex group as DP paint map, and we need some color node. So Shift A, go to color, and let's go to mix RGB and drop this between the two nodes. And let's create this mix to multiply, and let's add factor value of 2. It's going to show this black color texture. And if you want to change the color of the material, you can do it from the second color. You can choose any color from it. Right now I'm going to keep it as white. Not white, it's a default color, maybe it's kind of gray. And in material preview section, we are not able to see the fire, because we didn't create any texture for fire right now. So now we're going to create a fire texture. If you don't create any texture for the fire, it will not show in a render mode. And now let's add a color to the, or texture to the fire. Press create a new, and now we don't need this principal BSDF for the fire. We need principal volume node, so we can delete this principal BSDF, and let's add a shader to principal volume, and volume to volume. Let's connect this, and if we increase the strength of emission strength, you can see some emissions light from the cube. And right now we don't need this one, or maybe a blackout, so you can see the some fire in it with this node. But we're going to create some custom texture so that it will look good. It will make it will look good for the fire. And to do that, we need a color ramp. It's a converter node, so press shift A, go to converter, and converter, and press color ramp. And we're going to duplicate this one is for intensity and one is for color. And we need another node, a math node, so go to vector, not vector, it's a converter. Go to converter and select, choose the math node, and you can join this color to the value or upper value, and we're going to go this value to the emission strength. Now we can see some strengths out here, and we're going to connect this with emission color, and let's change this color to the maybe red or very orange, maybe orange red, I think more towards the red. And let's add some willow, because fire have some different colors and due to the intensity. And let's choose willow, and from the top we are going to choose a light willow, maybe this much. And right now it's looking very odd and it's not appealing to eye. To make this look good, we're going to add volume info node. To add, shift A, go to input and go to volume info node and add to the color. And we're going to choose connect these two with this volume info node by connecting with fame to the factor. And again we're going to do this for color. film to the factor. And we're going to change add two more. We're going to change this color to the white, and we're going to make this to black, and let's make it to the white again. And that's it for the material. Right now it's looking quite weird because in earlier I forgot to add texture to the now we don't need this one. Let's join it. We forgot some textures to the fire. I think we need to have to remake this one. To do that, let's go to the fluid, and we are going to feed data right now. And let's select the small icosphere and go to texture, tick the texture mark, and let's create a texture. Add color. Again, we are going to choose type as a cloud, and then we can scale it down maybe 0.16 and depth to 5. Or not depth, then we can reset to 2 and go to color and contrast to 5. In this area, white is a fire and black it's non-burning. It will some variation, and go back to the physics property panel and physics tab, and let's go to texture and select this as texture, not texture, texture 001. Choose some very weird texture, so let's recreate. Let's delete this cube, and let's we're going to, it's not able to delete, so let's create a new cube. Press Shift A, go to cube, go to wireframe mode, scale it up, and this much, yeah, that's good. And now let's add a domain. Go to fluid and select as a domain gas. Let's keep it right now 64. And hit to the 1.5, vorticity to 0.1, go to fire, and let's change it to 0.7, and make it to 110 frame to 110. Go to modular, resumable, everything's okay. The mesh. Let's bake the data. It's taking too much time. If your computer is slower, then you can change the resolution to, or you can keep it as a 32. If you have a good computer, you can increase the resolution. For me right now 64 is kind of okay. If it's not working, then we're going to do it from the start. It's burning fire in a very weird thing. Actually, we don't want this kind of mess. Maybe let's create a new one. Go to general, don't save. One thing is I forgot to save before baking anything. Right now I'm going to go for very quick. So shift A to mesh, icosphere. Go to displacement, the displacement node. Modifier. Strength to dynamic paint this as a brush, add brush, set the color to black. S for sure. Let's save this instrument. Save. Let's bake it. And now let's add a cube with mesh, cube, one more framework. Fluid to make it as domain gas 32. Let's keep at 32 to save time. To the gas. Flow. Fire. Geometry to inflow. Fluid gas 32, it's okay. Fire 0.7. Use texture, go to cloud, 6, go to color, contrast to 5. Let's add a keyframe in texture or offset and go to add a keyframe. Let's keep it just 0. Go to frame number and 110 and make the offset to 1. And let's add a keyframe. And now it's almost ready. We don't need this Bezier mode, so we are going to create the linear curve. To do that, box select these two keyframe and press T in the timeline and select the linear, and that's it. now let's bake. So go to one, Control S for save, and we're good. Let's bake. It's baking pretty fast because I kept the resolution to the 32. Now let's go back to select this one, go to dynamic paint and delete bake. We're going to change this type to the paint, and like previous, and add go to initial color to color, keep it as white, select the bigger and go to 0.05 as earlier. And let's go to vertex point to see. I think I'm going to create so let's add a keyframe in one and go to 20, keyframe 20, and go to 0.4 and add a keyframe again. That's 5. Now let's create texture. Go to texture node, select this. Shift 8, input texture coordinator 1. We need another noise texture. Shift 8 texture, noise texture, and go to Shift A, vector, bump, vector to the height, normal to the normal, vector to the height, and let's make this 300 right now. Strength to 2, Shift A, Shift A, let's add a plane, scale it down, choose the object, let's apply scale, not a cube, it's empty object to the vector, it's vector to the height. Now it's working okay. Shift A, go to input, go to vertex color, let's add a color, mix RGB, and 0.2. I think this point should be 81. Just to multiply, and we have created the texture for the small icosphere. Now we're going to create the fire texture. So Shift A, go to texture, plus volume. Let's Shift Shift A. This to black. And that's it for the fire texture, and now it's looking pretty good. Now we have created a very appealing fire, I think better than last one. And now let's add some plane. Go to viewport, scale it fair large, grab it down. Let's turn this stopped. We have added the light, and go to light texture. Let's increase the watt to 2000 and keep the color maybe radius, increase the radius, bring somewhat here, and it's looking good. And now let's add a camera. Shift A, add camera. Let's select the view. I think this is great. And now press Ctrl Alt, press Ctrl Alt and 0 to bring the camera to the current mode. And let's go to render view. Before render this, we're going to do some output setting. Select FF MPEG video and the encoder to the MPEG4. Output quality is okay. Now let's go to the set render setting. Tick on check mark this bloom and screen space reflection, and go to volumetric and reduce the tile size to 2. Add some, let's increase this volume to 32. Sample to the 64. Let's keep it as 64. Maybe you can change to the 128 or as your preference. And now let's render it. Render to render animation. It's taking too much time. For now, I'm going to stop the live class because it's take a lot of time to render. It's taking so much time, so you can render it yourself and you can see the output. And this much for the today's class, and see you in the next class. So see you next in the